Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So today I'd like to go over all of the top 5 helm pieces for all of the roles. DPS, healers and tanks. And I should do them in that order. Now if you are interested in one of the roles, then feel free to use those timestamps to skip on ahead in the video. So first I'd like to give a special thank you to all of my channel members for helping me keep my channel going. So let's start off with DPS. I'm on my rogue and ideally as the number 1 spot, you would run the Goristro horns. It's the most efficient headpiece to give you those offensive statistics. Whenever you hit or heal your target for more than 10% of your max HP, you will gain a stack of 1% critical strike, and this can stack up to 10 times. So this is usually the best within most fights. Generally, we can use our encounter powers in AoE to deal more than that amount of damage. And then when you're in single target, you generally have at-will powers which have a decent high magnitude, which can also get this procced off and you can maintain it consistently. Then for in second place, I would go with the Redcap's cap. Now this does give stacks of power percentage. It would give you a total of 7.5% power whenever you gain those stacks. Similar to the Goristro horns, you'll need to hit or heal your target for a minimum of 10% of your maximum HP, and then you gain those stacks, up to 5 of them, each stack giving 1.5% power and movement speed. So pretty neat there. If this doesn't fit your build, then you go to the Whisperer's Hood of the Quiet. This has the exact same effect, however it will give accuracy instead of power. Many builds will lack that accuracy and therefore this will be potentially pretty good, but overall the Goristro horns is definitely number 1 spot. Now the Goristro horns comes from the tier 1 Avernus Hunt, where you will use the white horn chip. So it's fairly easy to obtain with a little bit of grinding. The Redcap's cap unfortunately comes from the Vault of Stars, the hardcore, when you farm those mini bosses. And the Whisperer's Hood of the Quiet comes from the tier 3 Avernus Hunt, the 9th spine. So definitely a major grind to get there. Then in our 4th place, we have the Lionguard or the Blessed Headpiece. When you look within the collections tab, you have the Lionheart and you also have the Divine Armor. The Divine Armor has the exact same bonus, giving you that 5,000 power when your stamina is over 75%. I believe those of you who haven't took part within last year's Battle Pass for Redeemed Citadel, you won't be able to earn the favor to purchase this Divine Armor, so you'll be resorting to the Lionguard stuff, which comes from the Infernal Citadel. Relatively easy to obtain if you have a decent group. But again, you'll have to fit this into your build. You can see my power then is way over and it's not necessary for me to obtain that rating. Then we would have the Helm of the Skyblazer for single target. This is in 5th place. I have another item in 5th place for AoE. The Helm of the Skyblazer will give you that 7% combat advantage when you're in combat with only one enemy. So this would be for your trials like Zariel or Tar the Mad Mage, or just those boss fights where they don't summon adds. Again, this helm will come from the tier 3 Avernus Hunt, so insanely hard to obtain. But if you're going for that ribcage, then you can potentially pick this up while you're at it. And finally, in 5th place, but for AoE, we have the Gallant Raid Mask. Of course, it will be slightly different naming for the different roles, but it will give you the benefit when you kill an enemy, will increase your damage for 5% for 5 seconds. Unfortunately, there's a cooldown of 30 seconds. If it didn't have this cooldown, it could potentially be the best helmet to be using. But still, this benefit is very good for that burst damage. When you jump into a pack of enemies, you kill 1 or 2 of them, you gain this bonus, and then you'll be easier able to kill off the rest of them. This Gallant one is very easy to obtain, as you just have to complete the Acquisitions Incorporated adventure, complete all those tasks, and you obtain this Gallant armor set. You'll obtain all of those item pieces, including this helmet. So that's it for DPS, with the Goristro horns being in 1st place. There of course are other few options than those top 5 I've mentioned. For example, the Weatherwood Hood from Seals, giving 5k power whenever you deal combat advantage at a 10% chance. Also, for single target, there's the Fancy Duelist Mask from Valana's mini bosses or Juma, will give another 5k power. And there's also the Stealer of the Stars hood from Undermountain, giving 1% action points every time you kill an enemy. Pretty decent for those classes who want to be spamming daily powers all the time. And then lastly, there's also the Hat of the Cowardly, giving 5% accuracy and move speed whenever you kill an enemy from those Undermountain expeditions. So let's move on to our healers. Now, without a doubt, in this current state, the Raincatcher is absolutely the best for healers. When your health is above 50%, your outgoing healing is increased by 7,500. Now, it's currently very hard to obtain lots of outgoing healing rating, so this is definitely a major source of it. However, when your health is below 50%, you'll increase that crit strike by 7,500. Very decent there. Healers generally don't lose too much HP, and they have an additional 10% as well. In second place, the Lionguard one or the Divine one are just the best. They're giving that extra power. It's not so easy to cap power on a healer, so this extra rating will help, and it's consistent as long as your stamina is above 75%. Then we have the Goristro horns, which arguably some people might say is the best for a healer, but in my opinion it's not, because it's a lot easier to cap crit than it is your outgoing healing, and on top of that, keeping the stacks up is pretty hard for any other healer than, let's say, the cleric, where they can have healing word on everybody. But if people are not taking lots of damage and it's only like the tank, then you're really not going to gain any of those stacks anyway. Again, I've already mentioned where the Goristro horns comes from, but it's the white horn chip lore for the tier 1 Avernus hunt. Then again, from Sharandar, you could run also the Redcap's cap, giving those extra stacks of power, again when you have to heal for that extra 10% of your maximum hit points. And it's also from Hardcore Voss, from those mini bosses. Then we would have another piece from Valenhas, which I've already mentioned, the Fancy Duelist Mask. Whenever you're against one target, you will increase your power by 5,000. This would be good for single target, and this again comes from Valenhas, those mini bosses, or from Juma himself. Then we have an Undermountain. You could run this with the old switcheroo, the Leafy disguise of the Wanted, where you'll just reduce your critical avoidance but increase your critical strike. Not really much harm there, as you generally don't need lots of defensive stats. So that's it for the healer. You ideally want to focus on things that are going to benefit your heals, so that would be things that would give you bonus either straight healing or give you power, crit strike, crit severity, or outgoing healing. Otherwise, just take whatever's available to you that has the highest item level. Finally, we move to tanks. Now, the main situation with tanks right now is they don't really have any great helms that are going to give them much more survivability. So we can prioritize dealing more damage, and we have some pretty good ones available to us. When we go down to Chult and we go to the Hunts of Omu, you can pick up this Mane of the Manticore. Whenever you deal a daily power and that enemy hits you, they will take an extra damage equal to 50% of your maximum hit points. As a tank, you're going to have a lot of hit points, and this will help out a lot in those single target boss fights when you need to make sure you get that extra damage off at the beginning of a fight. Then we jump back to Sharandar, and in second place we have the Turban of Shifting Sands. Actually, I've put this in conjunction with the Mane of the Manticore in first place, since it's prioritized for AoE, where you would use this and immediately it would pull all enemies around you when you use a daily power that are within 25 feet of you, and they'll be sucked towards you, and you'll gain deflect severity and you'll reduce their accuracy. So that's pretty neat. So then in second place we have the Sud's Good Wood Hood, and it will basically, when you're in combat with just one enemy, increase your defense and your critical avoidance by 1,500. Pretty neat, but again only good for in single target. Another one good for in AoE is from within Ravenloft. You have in the Hunts, the Sister of Fury, the Crown of the Undead. Works the same as the Turban of Shifting Sands. It will, when you use a daily power, pull all the enemies that are within 20 feet of you right next to you and will stun any undead. Unfortunately, both of these helms have a 30-second cooldown, but realistically, you're not really going to get a daily power off that often anyway, except of course if you're a ranger and you can use a quarter of your AP for a daily power. Then going back to the Hunts of Omu, in third place here I would rate the Chritters Fangs. Whenever you use an encounter power, you will damage the enemy that hits you next equal to 5% of your max HP. Nowhere near as good as the Manticore, but will give some consistent damage over time if you need that extra aggro. So you could run this Chritters Fangs and then run a ring, which would give the same Manticore's bite, and then you would have that extra damage. Otherwise, there's really not anything great for tanks. Nothing that's going to give any major survivability. There is, as I mentioned, the Sud Wood Hood, giving that extra defensive stats. But otherwise, just take anything that has high item level, high defensive stats, and then just out from there, it's extra offensive stats. Whether if you're running Voss, you might as well run the one that has the extra damage within Sharandar. But of course, try and pick up the list that I have went through there in order of priority from the first one I mentioned to the last one I mentioned. And that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully again this was somewhat helpful to you guys. I'll put a quick sheet on screen here now, the list from the top 5 of each of the roles that I recommend. If I've missed anything and you think another headpiece might be better than the one I've mentioned, make sure to leave it in the comments below. If I presented as well, consider leaving the video a like, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing. And we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.